Hello, everyone. How are you? I'm so happy to be here after this intense screening. I'm Karen James. I'm a film critic for BBC Culture, and I am so delighted to welcome the cast of this amazing series, one of my very favorites, really one of the best on television. One by one, let me introduce Sam Yeager, who plays Mark. Amanda Brugel, who is Rita, formerly known as Martha. Transformed. Max Minghella, Nick. And an executive producer, a director, and the star, Elizabeth Moss. So I'm lucky. I have seen a couple more episodes than you all have, and it gets more intense next time. So I'm just saying, be prepared. So, and there have been so many great turns this season, starting with last season when June and some friends kill Fred. And this season, it's been a lot about vengeance and justice. So I wonder, Lizzie, what does justice and vengeance, what does that mean to June? Is there even a difference for her between those two things?
I think that, no, I don't think there is that much of a difference. But I think that what has happened this season is the end of last season, she thought that vanquishing her enemy, the sort of number one villain for her of Fred Waterford, would make her feel better and would bring some sort of closure or would give her some sort of answer. And what she discovers in episode 1 of this season is that it doesn't. And then when she discovers in episode 2 is who sort of the real villain is, which is Serena. And so I think she spends the rest of the season grappling with that and grappling with the fact that she thought that she was going to have some relief. She thought that she was going to feel a sense of vengeance and justice. And that doesn't happen because Gilead is so much bigger than one man. You know, Gilead is a way of thinking. It's a way of life. So it's not going to disappear if you just get one guy. And unfortunately, she sort of learns that.
How has she changed since moving to Canada and since killing Fred? What are the repercussions of that for her?
I mean, I think she's got to try to figure, this season's so much about her figuring out how to be all of these things in one person. How is she a murderer, a victim, a mother, a wife, a friend, a lover? How is she all of these things in one person? And can they all exist in one person? You know, and how does she do that? So this season's all about figuring that out. And then I know like a little bit about what season 6 is going to be, and it's and it's really cool, and is a really natural progression from that that I'm really excited about.
Well, did you all see where this was going to go when you first signed on? How many seasons did you know there would be? Any of you?
10.
10?
Amanda doesn't sign on for less than 10.
No, I do 10. I do. 10. I sign on for 10.
It's a 10
and that's
minimum
it.
with an option for 12.
I signed for an under 5 role, so I was shocked that I was invited back at all.
Well, it is actually true. Isn't that like you came and you didn't know if you were going to come back? And wasn't that?
Yeah, it was
like
just a guest star.
Yeah.
And then I think they ran
so
out
good.
of malevolent white guys, so they thought, hey, they'll bring that guy. That guy seems pretty mischievous. We'll bring him back.
To answer your question, I guess, I mean, we all, I think, signed on for, 5 years? Was it 5? And, but you never know. Some of us have done a lot of TV, some of us haven't, but you never know how long a show is actually going to go. It's always year by year, in a way.
Did Bruce Miller know where he was going to take the story? Because the first season sort of eats up Margaret Atwood's novel,
Yeah.
and then it turns away. So did he know that he would eventually have June escape? And
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. And I think also there was a lot from the book that we didn't do that we ended up doing in season 2. Like people think that we did the book in season 1, but there's actually a lot that we didn't do that we ended up continuing to pull from. But I think we knew eventually she'd have to get out, but we really drew it out for a very long time. And I'm not sorry about it.
No,
Being
Amanda-
June Osborne means not having to say you're sorry.
We use that. That's great.
If that shows up in season 6, we'll know we've jumped the shark. That's when we've gone too far.
That's true.
So, Amanda, Rita and June have a very intense scene early in this season in June's kitchen, where June is talking about vengeance and how she wants to get Serena, and Rita says, "I don't want to hear that. I have struggled every day." Tell us what went into making into that scene and what you had to bring to the character there.
It's really interesting. I've talked about this before. I think if I had shot this season 1, I would have approached it differently because I would have acted it. But when you've been on a show for this long, your cast, you start to get to know them as family, you start to get to trust them, you start to get to care about them beyond the characters. And a line sometimes gets blurred between the characters and friendships, or what I know about June versus what I know about Elizabeth, what she knows about Amanda versus what she knows about Rita. And this is the first time we had a confrontation, a true confrontation on the show, and it wasn't really even anything that big. But for Rita to swear it wasn't written in the script, but I decided I want to toss in a swear word, and then Elizabeth was our wonderful director, and she is so encouraging, and she encouraged me to toss in some more swear words, which is lovely. But if I'm being honest, I didn't really. This was the one scene going into it I didn't really prepare. When I do anything with Elizabeth, I don't prepare. You can't really. And that's a compliment. It's not like I'm lazy, like whatever. She won't notice, she's busy. But you can't prepare in a scene. I don't know if you guys agree, you can't prepare in a scene with Elizabeth because it changes so much, and it's so organic and it's so fluid, and so you really just have to stay present and stay on your toes. So I didn't really prepare for that scene. I will tell you I was petrified, not because I'm scared of Elizabeth, but I'm scared shitless of June. And so Lizzie, when she becomes June, the color of her eyes kind of change. It's really daunting. And so it's weird. Did you know that? It's weird. It's like it gets really intense, just only when you're intense. And so that was a bit daunting. This is a long answer. Good night.
Good night. Well, tell us a little bit more about where Rita is right now, whether she can really move on with her life.
I think Rita's in a beautiful place right now. I like being asked that question because then it makes me really have to repeat to myself that she is, in fact, in a good place. The show's quite heavy, and you don't really see moments of levity. In my mind, I have, in between doing scenes, I create little backstories of where she is and what she's doing, and she has, like, wine and cheese nights with girlfriends. And I think that she's one of the only people that doesn't have any ties back to Gilead that sort of keeps her held down. She's not really oppressed by any memories or having to get back to any family members. And so there's a levity and there's a freedom in the idea of her moving forward and creating an entirely new life and identity. So I think Rita's good. But I do think that her care and love and dedication to June and concern for June is the thing that's concerning, because she sees her friend unwilling to, in Rita's perspective, unwilling to move forward, unwilling to sort of embrace forgiveness. Rita's quite, she's a woman of God, and so I think there's a concern for her friend that holds a bit of concern for her, but for the rest, she's balling. She's doing bingo Tuesdays, she's going bowling, she's shopping, she's bald, so she's good.
And Max,
And she deserves that, doesn't she? Yeah.
Max, tell us about Nick. And I always think that he must be a difficult character to play because he's got a double life. He's in love with June. He's helping June at the same time. He's supposedly the commander who believes in Gilead. How do you play that as if he's a double agent or maybe triple agent? We don't know.
I think it's really fun to play that. There's so many layers to it. And we were doing a thing with Bruce Miller the other night, and he said that after 4 seasons or 5 seasons of writing for us, he sort of learned our cadence. He sort of learned a little bit of what we're like away from this show, and it seeps into the fiction a little bit. And so I have found, as the show's progressed, that the language just really sits comfortably. Even to the extent that now I seem to have innumerable scenes with Bradley Whitford, who I've become close with outside of the show too. So that's a very easy relationship for me. So I love it. It's not hard. It's fun.
Well, a lot of his interactions with Commander Lawrence are not even matters of dialogue. It's just sort of a glance or a wink, or they've got this silent communication.
Yes, they are kind of similar people, actually, I think. They have this kind of removed pragmatism about them that's kind of similar. And they're not, I don't think they totally buy in. I mean, Lawrence is enigmatic, but it doesn't seem like they fully buy into this regime.
And Sam, you came in, as you mentioned, a little bit later than the others into the show. Is there anything that surprised you when you arrived on set? It's such a dark atmosphere on screen. What was it like off screen to walk into that cast?
That's a good question. I came from a show that moved very fast, and so I was not used to it, a show that really put time and energy into setting up cameras. And there was an episode, the episode we arrested Fred. I don't know if I've told you guys this, where I'm waiting to pull up at the gas station to tell them to follow me, and it's Serena and Fred that follow my car. And I'm sitting there for about 20 minutes in the car watching Yvonne and the director talk about what's happening, and I finally walked up to them, and they both were in the middle of this kind of discussion. It wasn't heated, but it was just about the right process of what was to happen. And I said, is there anything that we're doing here that is going to matter from the drone a half a mile up in the sky? And they both looked at me like, who the hell is this guy? And then, but Yvonne was like, well, I'm not sure why I would be outside of the car. And so they had to figure out a purpose to it, and it turned out that Yvonne justified it by smoking, and she was stepping outside to smoke. Otherwise, she wouldn't get out of the car. And what I love about that moment is, even here we are, season 5, every actor that I work with still has that specificity and that sense of purpose. And it's not about making, I thought it was, having not known her very well, I thought it was about, man, these actors are just get in and do the job. Do the job. You've had months to prepare this material, get there and just do the work. But what's lovely is we care so much. Our team cares about wanting to tell a better story than we told last week. And so that's been the takeaway. I'm just startled by how the opposite, how egoless our team is, how we're all trying to figure out the best way to approach this story so that you guys love it, every week. And I think that's a testament to these people on stage.
Well, it really works because obviously we do love it. And we also want to know, what's the deal with Mark and Serena?
It's funny. I've had people even last night were like, "Oh, just tell us, is it Mark's baby?"
Yeah.
I want to know.
But I thought that was such a
What?
stretch. Yes.
No, I do.
I thought
That's
that was
new.
such a leap but I think it's, anytime you have two people that have any sort of romantic entanglement on screen, we sort of take it to the extremes. But, I think Mark, I think they admire how smart one another is, and I think they enjoy the game that they've played for so long. And out of that, I think he legitimately cares for Serena.
Yeah, well,
And especially, I think he loves who Serena was. The flashback that we see in, was it season 2 or season 1 that we got to see Serena before Gilead? That was season 1.
Oh, no, season 2, sorry.
Yeah. And we saw that she was this really outspoken feminist. And I think that was all that Mark knew. And then the Serena that he pulls from Gilead, I think, is not that same woman. And but what I love about this show is that my wife said the other night, she was like, with Kill Bill, you get you get the reward of revenge. It's just like, oh, that's what you want. You want some woman just kicking the shit out of people. But our show, you get that, but it's a show, so we get to see all sides of what that looks like. And luckily you have someone like Lizzie who's at the center of that, who can tell that and keep turning the pages for us in a riveting way. So that's fun to go to work with.
Well, tell us about directing, Lizzie, because you've done a number of episodes, including the first 2. Are there things that you learned about the series from looking at it from the other side of the camera, or about those characters?
Honestly, I have so much more respect for actors since I started directing. I've been acting for 35 years, and I love acting so much, but I don't take it very seriously. And I love it. I love it so much. I think it's like, I really do love it more than anything. But yeah, I don't think about it too much. I don't do a lot of preparation. I don't do a lot of research or anything. I like to be more instinctive. My point is that when I started being on the other side, I realized how valuable good actors are. I'm so lucky that I got to direct for the first time. I went to the Super Bowl in my first game. This was I got to work with the creme de la creme of actors in my first directing thing ever. That's very lucky. And I really got to see how you can be struggling with a scene. It happens when I'm acting too, though. If I'm not directing, I'm just acting. But definitely when I'm directing, if you might be struggling with a scene, like Sam was saying, these actors, there's no ego. Everyone cares so much about the show. And they care about their character and they care about the scene, but they really care about the show. And you can walk into a room and be like, I think this is how we want to do it, and I'm not quite sure how to block it. And I know it's 4 a.m, and there's a baby, and we only have an hour to do it. And they will be there for you, and they will help you, and they will make it work. And they will take something that you are so terrified isn't going to work, and they will actually make it incredible. So I think after starting to direct is when I really started to, that was the thing that I learned, was how valuable good acting actually is, and how it can make you look great, and how it save your ass, and can make you a better director.
Is there anyone in the cast, and you can talk
I
about
don't
people who aren't here,
Bradley.
So glad you asked.
is there anyone who wants to stay in character all the way through?
Oh,
So people walk
that's such a
around
good
being
question.
depressed or terrible?
That's such a, no, I don't think there are.
But
is anybody.
accents. I will say the people that,
like
don't speak in
OT.
their original, in their native tongue, accent. What do you say? How do you speak? What words do you speak? Accent. Accent.
How do you speak?
How do you speak? Say something, Max. Say something. Yeah, some people will say, do you commit to an American accent? You go back and forth.
I
And
don't.
Joe would go back and forth.
Joe would go back and forth. OT's the only one who sticks with it. who whenever he's on set all day, he will
He
not.
does.
He's a
And
real,
Yvonne
he's a
goes-
real actor.
He's
Yeah,
actually
he's
a real
he's the
actor.
actual actor.
Not like us
Yeah.
frauds. No, but we don't really allow for that kind of thing. Like the material's too heavy. It would be too, I think we all believe not only these guys, but behind the scenes in a really positive, safe work environment. And so you don't allow for people to walk around being all sad or angry,
Yeah. I think we've talked about that before, where we've worked with certain method actors, and it's a lot for a crew to navigate around, and we just don't
Yeah.
have the time.
No, exactly.
It's just like
We're only like
for
a few
all these
people.
people to keep that up for you.
Yeah. They don't
It's just
care.
so much time.
And there's 150 people that don't give a shit.
Yeah. They don't give a shit. Yeah.
It's true.
I'm
and
sorry
it's not fair
called.
to them.
I'm sorry I called you Sam on the set. I know you should call you by your character's name, Mark. I gotta make sure I tell the costume designer to only. What a waste of time. Come on, just get in, do the work, do the good work. You got great actors. Just get in and get out.
I think we have the opposite problem. I think we have trouble getting into character,
Yes.
staying in character.
Yes.
We have too much fun, honestly. And that's the other thing I learned when you directed. It's it is like herding cats sometimes because everyone is truly friends, and especially after 5 years, everyone is actually really friends and knows a lot about each other's lives and has spent time together, not in Toronto and offset, and so they just want to talk about their lives. And sometimes you have to come home here to go to work. So yeah, we have the opposite problem. We can't get into character.
And you were shooting in Toronto even before June escaped to Toronto.
Yeah,
right?
we've
You
shot
were
the whole thing in
time,
Toronto. It's
So
very convenient that I
very
then
convenient,
escaped to
yeah,
Toronto.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're going to escape. Just go where the location is. Anyway.
Yeah, it was great.
That's fine. But Max, Nick is still in Gilead. And what's his motivation? Is it love for June? Is it ideology? Why is he still there? And what's he up to?
Look, I don't know anything.
You know more than we do.
I don't really, to be honest. I get the scripts one at a time. I don't quite know what he's going to do next. But as a result of that, I sort of have to cling on to something. So, much like life, I don't really know where this character's going to go. But I do believe that the one thing that's been consistent for him, and this is going to sound sappy, but I do believe his feelings for June and that connection is always the sort of the most tangible thing for him, and is some kind of path to redemption. I think this sort of idea in his head that he might be able to help, or specifically with Hannah, or some kind of reunion there, might compensate for some of the things he's done in the past.
And speaking of Hannah, June is really torn apart that she could not save her daughter. And it almost seems like she's heading towards some kind of Sophie's choice. She has these two men that she seems to love. She has two daughters in two different countries. And that's a real dilemma for her, isn't it?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the thing about this show. Sorry, were you going to say something? No.
No, I was going to say what drives her. What is her guilt about Hannah really driving her at this point?
I mean, when I first started the show, the thing that I clung to with the first episode and the first couple of episodes, which is all I had at the time, was the first two when I signed on, was I felt like it was about survival, and it was about survival for and through her children, or her child. And that's just something that I've clung to for 5 years. There have been times that we've contemplated doing this or that with the story, and I've just always insisted over and over that she will never give up on Hannah. She will never, ever, ever give up on her daughter. I believe as a mother that you don't ever give up on your child if they need you, or hopefully. So that's just something I've always clung to, and I think that's, I mean, you're a mother, you understand probably, that's just who she is. So that's what drives her. It's really simple in a way. I think what she's kind of starting to morph into, or she's starting to transition into, is the idea of, how do I survive for not just my own children? How do I fight for all the children, that need to come home?
Mm-hmm. Which is what she and Rita did in getting children out of Gilead in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. And Rita lost a child. I mean, there's this, I don't want to spoil anything, but there's a scene coming up where Rita and June connect about that concept. And, Rita has incredible pain that she's carrying, if I may speak for you. And I think we forget sometimes that you lost a child on the show. Mm-hmm. And that is something that obviously really bonds them.
Mm-hmm. Now, obviously this is a fiction, but one of the things that people have said from the start is how close it is to reality. Thanks to Margaret Atwood. And then in season 1, it seemed like, it's eerily close to reality. And it seems to get closer and closer to reality, especially in the past year or so with reproductive rights under attack. Do the writers lean into those parallels? Lizzie, maybe you're the person to answer since you're an executive producer too. Or are there times when it seems too much on the nose and they want to not make it seem like they're echoing reality too much?
I mean, the thing is, it's a very practical answer that these ideas are come up with for the season months and months and months before it happens in real life. So, and we shoot them months and months and months before you see them. So they can't pull from the headlines, even if they wanted to. We've never been a sort of pulling from the headlines show anyway, but just the reality is that the ideas for the season are cracked before, a year before, longer, a year and a half before you guys actually see them. The correlation has been strange and disturbing, and I think that it's something we don't relish. It's something we take no pleasure in. I think we all really wish that this was a fantasy, that this was like, oh my God, it's so crazy. This could never happen here. And that's obviously been proven wrong over and over. It starts with Margaret, though. She wrote that book in 1985, and she was extremely prescient. She was also very aware of the past. Margaret talks a lot about the cyclical nature of history. And she called a lot of stuff long before we ever thought about making a show,
That book is amazing. And also, as many of you know, Atwood wrote another novel published in 2019 called The Testaments, a sequel to The Handmaid's Tale. And that Bruce Miller, who created the show, is developing that as well as a series for Hulu. So after the next season ends, you won't feel totally bereft if that turns out.
Yeah. More from the franchise. Yay.
Like a Marvel's franchise. Okay. One last question we have time for. Because of these parallels with reality, do you hope that your fictional show has some real life implications? Do you hope that people take something away from it that resonates in real life?
Sorry, what was the question?
Do you hope that your fictional show sends some kind of message that people can take into real life? Do you hope that they...
I do. It's already happened and started happening, of people using the costumes, specifically the Handmaid costume, as a form of protest, and women feeling inspired to say, don't let the bastards grind you down, in every sort of different way they can say it. Even if they don't get the proper coffee, they're like, don't let the bastards grind you down. That's a bit too much. But I love that it's given a generation of women, and I'm not talking about like younger women. I'm talking about like my mother's generation of women, insight into what it means to fight and to be unapologetic and fierce and to face trauma from the past and not feel guilty about it, not bury things, to get dirty, to want to kick the shit out of something that's hurt you. And I'm not at all promoting violence. I'm just saying I'm proud to be part of something that's inspired women to find their fucking voice and rock it.
Well, thank you so much. We have to end it here, but thank you so much for this season, for all the past seasons, and for being here and for sharing all of this with us. Thank you.